Good morning and welcome to this very special occasion. And although our situation is difficult and it's unusual, I'm very pleased that our important fixtures in the Scopus year are still happening, albeit in a different form. And the Baron Snider is absolutely one of those. And it's been going for, I think, more than 50 years. And it really is a highlight of the year each year. People get very nervous. It's quite a challenge, but that's the nature of public speaking. That's the nature of putting yourself forward in front of an audience. There are advantages in a sense that we're on Zoom, because I know that many parents can join us more easily than perhaps they otherwise could. And thank you all very much for parents and family members who are here supporting their candidates for the position of winning the Baron Snider. I'd like to congratulate everyone who's taken part, which is really the entire year level. A special congratulations to the finalists who've done very, very well to get to this point. A thank you to all the English teachers who've administered the process up till now. It occurs to me that while we're sitting here on Zoom, looking at an array of people in their little boxes, that the means of communication that we still fall back on, especially when we run out of other ways of communicating, is by speech, is by talking to each other, is by using words to present an argument which is coherent and convincing. And even in an age when we have normally so many other ways of communicating, so many other types of media, it's still the case that the most effective way of persuading other people of your point of view is to make a speech. And to persuade other people of your point of view really is another word for sharing ideas. And the ability to share and exchange ideas between each other is, to put it nothing less than the essence of civilization. That's how we grow as a society. We share ideas, we convince each other, we persuade each other of the merits of our case. That's what public speaking is. And that's why public speaking is so important. It's important in the world at large, and it's important in our school. And it's celebrated by events like this. So I look forward to hearing from some wonderful speeches. I look forward to seeing how Year 7 are really well on the path to great oratorical skills. And I now hand over to our MCs who will take it from here. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Year 7 Baron Snider Finalists for 2020. This year, our topic was an incredible discovery, and each student was faced with the task of writing a unique speech regarding this topic.
After putting in much time and effort writing and practicing our speeches, we were then told that the Baron Snider Competition will be held online. Being the clever and adaptive students that we are, each student presented an informative and interesting speech via Zoom for the first time in the history of this competition.
2 students from each class were then selected as the Year 7 Baron Snider finalists. We would like to say mazel tov to these finalists and everyone who participated, and a big thank you to Rabbi Kennard for adjudicating our competition.
Now please enjoy this year's Baron Snider finals. Our first speaker will be from 7A. She is hoping her speech will make a splash.
On the 19th of January 2015, I received a mermaid doll for my 7th birthday from my brother. My parents gave me a mermaid tail which you stepped into to swim like a mermaid. Up until then, I was all about fairies, tutus, wands, and everything sparkling. I did not know about mermaids, but was instantly attracted to the shimmering scales on my new mermaid tail. My mum started reading books to me about mermaids, and I found a TV show called H2O Just Add Water about 3 teenage girls who had the power to transform into mermaids whenever water touched their skin. That same year, we went to Thailand during the school holidays. I took both my mermaid doll and mermaid tail with me. By this stage, I was sure mermaids were real, but still had not seen one in real life. Deep down, I hoped maybe I could discover one on our beach holiday. My parents organized a day trip exploring the islands by boat. The boat took us to some caves which we could explore by snorkeling into them. There was a rope to hold onto as you gradually made your way into the cave. The water was calm and warm. Inside the cave, it was very quiet, and it took some time for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. We had been told to be still once we were in the cave, told onto the ropes and look down into the deep blue water for the fluorescent sea life. It didn't take long for the glowing fish to appear and start darting past us. It was like mini meteors in the water as they moved so fast, and we only caught sight of their outlines. Feeling brave, I put my goggles on and put my head underwater. And then she swam by. I was sure it was a mermaid. It was bigger than me. It had arms and had long, wavy hair. But I didn't get a good look at it because in a flash, it was gone. What an incredible discovery. I had just seen a mermaid. Imagine, I'm 7 years old and I thought I had just made an incredible discovery. Did anybody else see the mermaid? Did I dare tell anybody of what I had just seen? I never told my family of what I thought I saw in the water that day in Thailand. And in fact, I have never told anybody. It was only a couple years later that I realized mermaids were in fact not real, and that maybe what I thought I saw that day was not a mermaid. I often wonder, what if I had discovered mermaid life? What an incredible discovery that would have been.
Thank you for that entertaining speech.
Next, we'll be representing 7B to help us to determine what makes a great discovery.
Have you made an incredible discovery today? I have. It was quite wonderful. It certainly changed my life, maybe my family's, potentially my friends. Right now, your brain is swimming. What kind of incredible discovery? Did you find a cure for cancer? Discover a new form of transport? Design a new sort of rocket ship? The answer to your brain is no. I didn't find a cure for cancer. I didn't discover a new form of transport, and I certainly didn't design a new sort of rocket ship. But I still believe that my discovery was definitely extraordinary. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how we determine whether a discovery is incredible. Many people believe that for a discovery to be incredible, it needs to change the lives of many people. I find that this fact can be true, but it can also be false. I think that for a discovery to be incredible, it just needs to change the life of at least one person. That person can be your best friend or the Prime Minister. It doesn't matter, as long as it helps someone to achieve something or to better themselves. What's to say that my discovery of putting cheese on my omelette while it's still cooking isn't extraordinary, but Steve Jobs creating Apple in his garage is? Why is his discovery better than mine? In your head, I want you to imagine anyone who you think has made an extraordinary discovery. Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, Marie Curie, whoever it is. Is there something in common between these people? Is it perhaps that maybe they made their discoveries a long time ago? That maybe they've taken all of the good discoveries? No one likes feeling like this. Like we have no purpose. Like we can't make an amazing discovery. For those who think that, I have a quote for you. Imagination is the highest form of research. Albert Einstein. This suggests that maybe he found his extraordinary discoveries in his imagination. We all have imaginations, wandering brains, and a strong, passionate heart. We are constantly making discoveries, making them in our heads, making them in our hearts, making them in our imaginations. You don't realize it, but you're making discoveries as we speak, discovering that school is better in tracksuit pants rather than uniform, and that you really liked what you had for lunch the other day. All of these seemingly useless discoveries help us to sort and sift through the great ones. They help us to reach our full potential and to grow as people. Unfortunately, my speech is coming to an end, but I would like you to keep this with you. We are not worthless. There are still so many discoveries out there just waiting to be grasped by the most curious hand, like a star waiting to be found. Our thoughts and discoveries make up the stars, and the sky is the limit. Oh, and for those of you wondering what my discovery was, here it is. There'll be endless discoveries left for us. We just have to be brave and curious enough to find them. Thank you.
Well done. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Now we will hear from of 7C. Speech is one that is very topical right now. Let's make him feel welcome.
COVID-19 is one of the most incredible discoveries of the last century. It has affected so many lives, including mine and yours. Thousands of people have died from COVID, and even for those who haven't caught the disease, their lives have been drastically changed. There have been months where we couldn't even see our grandparents or friends, and we've had to do school online. You might think, but how is COVID an incredible discovery? Well, incredible is defined as impossible to believe, and the fact that an invisible virus has turned the whole world upside down is certainly hard to believe. Who knew that a bat in China could affect us all in this way? We can't even see COVID, and yet it has brought the world to a standstill, stopped international and local travel, shut down businesses, and sadly resulted in many, many deaths. COVID has been an incredible discovery because it has made us all stop, pause, and slow down our lives. It has given us a chance to have more quality family time, to stop rushing around, and to enjoy the simple things like going for walks and doing puzzles. Hopefully, once COVID has passed, we can keep doing some of these things and not rush around as much as we used to. COVID has united people from all around the world, which is certainly not easy to do. Countries are working together to find a vaccine and to support each other through this crazy time. Also, the fact that we are connected online has helped, as people might be isolated physically. Whilst COVID has harmed many people and been terrible for the economy, it has actually been good for the environment. COVID has shown that there is a strong link between human behaviour and the environment. With far less people flying and driving, and factories shutting down, pollution and greenhouse gases have fallen across the world. For example, levels of pollution in New York have reduced by nearly 50% because of measures to contain the virus. Hopefully, some of our changed behaviour will continue and the positive impact on the environment will continue. Finally, COVID is an incredible discovery as it has shown us that we are not invincible, we do not really have control over our own lives, and we are all interconnected globally. One country's actions affect another, and so on. This means that we have to be careful about our actions in the future, as it could be on a person nearby, but also across the globe. COVID will only be one of the most incredible discoveries if the world can show that we've learned from it. Thank you.
Thanks for a very eye-opening speech.
Our next speaker will be from 7D. He will be taking us on a journey of science and discovery.
When one thinks of some of the world's foremost scientific discoveries, one immediately can create some of history's great couples. Isaac Newton and gravity, Albert Einstein and relativity, and Stephen Hawking and black holes. What about Eunice Foote and climate change? Eunice who, I hear you all say? I bet not one person has heard of Eunice Foote. And that, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, is the problem. How is it that none of us have heard of this remarkable woman, the father, or should I more accurately say mother, of climate science, and the most accomplished female researcher of the late 19th century? Eunice Foote was born in 1819 in a small town of Connecticut, USA. This was during a time where women were only just beginning to dream of a higher education, and a full 100 years before women were allowed to vote in elections. Despite all of these challenges, she became a female researcher when there were only very few women attending university. Her series of experiments, published in 1856, titled Circumstance Affecting the Heat of the Sun's Rays, was the first time in history anyone, man or woman, had drawn the link between carbon dioxide and atmospheric heat. This would later become the foundation for all modern climate change scientists. I can tell some of you are still not that impressed, but context is key. Only 16 scientific papers were published by women in the 19th century, and only 2 were published before 1889. Both of these were written by Eunice Foote. Amazingly, she did not get to present her work at the American Science Conference in 1856, as a more senior male colleague took that opportunity. Fittingly, but no less infuriating, he recognised her with the quote, "Science is of no country and of no gender. The sphere of women embraces not only the useful, but the true." Foote's contribution to climate science was largely forgotten until almost 150 years later, when modern climate scientists rediscovered her significant experiments and now pay tribute to her work, calling her the Rosa Parks of science. I wonder if more females were involved in the climate science debate, building on the remarkable foundation of Eunice Foote, then more rational heads would prevail, and more sensible plans and discussions would be had. So, my friends, when I think of Eunice Foote and her remarkable legacy to climate science, I am struck by how she represents the best and the worst of the world we live in.
Thank you for such an informative speech.
Next, we'll hear from 7E. He will take us on a journey of purpose.
Teachers, students, brace yourselves. My discovery is huge, mammoth, enormous, cosmic. I have discovered there is no God, and I'll prove it to you. Let's consider one of God's best known attributes, and that is his infinite power. If God is omnipotent and he has the power to do anything, if so, can God create a rock that is too heavy for his all-powerful self to lift? If you answer yes, then God is not omnipotent because he can't lift the rock. And if you answer no, then God's still not omnipotent because he can't create the rock. Therefore, without this key attribute, God simply cannot exist. And without God, there is no religion. Think about it. If we knew there was no religion, then all these persecutions and wars about religion could have been avoided. I mean, in the Holocaust, 6 million Jews could have kept their lives if there was no religion. Even now in China, they have re-education camps, which Muslim citizens of China have been forcibly taken to. Without religion, all these persecutions never would have happened. In addition, without Judaism, there are no rules on kashrut. Hallelujah, I can eat macas! Also, there are no special rules. Like for Jews, you don't have to keep Shabbos, and for Muslims, you can drink alcohol. Also, for Jews, things like the Yom Kippur fast isn't a thing. I mean, not only I can eat on Yom Kippur, but I can enjoy a juicy Big Mac and Oreo McFlurry on Yom Kippur. Then again, it's a bit of a shame there's no religion, because without religion, there isn't a high purpose to serve. All I'm saying is without God and religion, there's no meaning in life except the long-lasting goal of not dying. Also, back in the day, things like praying and worshipping gave people something to do in their day. Not only did it give them something to do, but it formed their day-to-day schedule. Another thing is around the world, there are all different types of communities. And without religion, we don't have a Jewish community or a Christian community or any other religious communities. That sense of belonging is very special. Having it means we have a group to fall back on if we needed to. Also, having a sense of community makes you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. God forgive me, I believe in you and your omnipotence.
Thank you. That was a very interesting perspective.
Now we will listen also from 7E, who is going to discuss the discovery of black holes.
The year is 2033, and I am on the Challenger Voyager searching the endless universe. We pass Venus, waving to the short orange men who call it home. We pass Pluto and sing with pride as we see the Australian flag planted on its sandy surface. But suddenly, alarms start going off. "We're losing ground," shouts Captain. A gap opens in our ship and 12 men are sucked out. Equipment is also sucked out, leaving it to float endlessly through space. The ship breaks open, and my only option is to jump. I take one last look out the main window, and to my horror, I see a massive, empty, lightless, black hole. Sounds far-fetched, right? Like, what's a black hole? Turns out the world of space is a little bit more complicated than little orange men and flying spaceships. In 1915, Albert Einstein came up with the general theory of relativity. Based on his theory, he predicted the existence of black holes. The theory of relativity is a theory of gravity. The basic idea is that instead of an invisible force that draws objects together, gravity is a curving or warping of the space-time continuum. Einstein goes on to explain that the more massive an object, the more it warps the space-time fabric around it, giving it more gravitational pull. Think of a trampoline. If you put a massive bowling ball in the middle of the trampoline will dimple and bend under the bowling ball. Then, if you put a marble on the edge of the trampoline, the marble will be drawn inwards to the bowling ball. But what does this have to do with black holes? First, we have to find out what a black hole actually is. A black hole is thought to be created when a star collapses in on itself. This then creates a very compact area with a huge amount of matter. As Einstein suggested, this large amount of matter compacted into a relatively small area gives black holes enormous gravitational pull. Like the bowling ball in our example, black holes warp and bend the space-time continuum to the extent that their gravitational force is huge. Their gravitational pull sucks in everything around it with great force. Light is also sucked in as well. This light cannot escape and is not reflected outwards, hence the hole is black. The first sighting of a black hole was in 1971, 56 years after it was first predicted. The challenge for sighting black holes is that they don't reflect light, so therefore they are hard to see. In the late 1960s, X-ray telescopes were first used to examine space. X-ray investigation of space allowed astronomers in 1971 to identify a black hole called Cygnus X1. In 2019, for the first time in history, an image of a black hole was released to the public by the Event Horizon Telescope, which is a group of telescopes placed across the globe. This was an unforgettable picture. This is amazing because something like this has never been achieved. It also paved the way for more research about black holes. We may not know everything about black holes, and there is still far more to learn, but from the beginning as a theoretical postulate in Einstein's work to a groundbreaking picture, I think we can all agree that black holes are certainly an incredible discovery.
Thanks for an out-of-this-world speech.
Now we will listen to from 7D. Speech is one very close to our hearts, Australia.
Kangaroos, the outback, the Sydney Opera House, fairy bread, hot summers on the beach, sausages on the barbie. These are just a few things that make Australia the best country in the world. But have you ever asked yourself the question, how did Australia become the country that it is today? Well, that is the story that I'll be sharing with you this morning, and the story is quite an incredible one. The discovery of the Great Southern Land by Europeans was incredible. The first European explorers to reach Australian shores had the courage to leave the comfort and safety of their home country to brave the great unknown. All that they did know was that the journey would be a long and perilous one, and that they would be risking their lives in pursuit of a new and exciting frontier. In fact, after 3 years facing the might of the ocean, James Cook and his crew on the HMS Endeavour narrowly avoided shipwreck on the Great Barrier Reef, on the very cusp of the final destination of their long journey. In addition, the crew was plagued by many vicious diseases, and many even paid the ultimate price and suffered a protracted and painful death at sea. Eventually, against all odds, they made a successful landing in the country that we now call Australia. Fascinating landscapes, endless beaches, natural plains, and bright golden sun. The explorers could not comprehend the grandeur of the continent which they had laid their eyes on. The most imaginative works of fiction could never have produced such a remarkable place. But you might have noticed that I haven't told you everything about this discovery. The most incredible part of this incredible discovery is that, of course, it wasn't a discovery at all. The Europeans were not the first to find Australia. In fact, Australians had already been living here for over 60,000 years. At the time of what some people call the European invasion of Australia, it is believed that as many as 950,000 Aboriginal people were living in the country. The Indigenous Australians developed countless rich and unique cultures and over 250 languages, and are as much a part of Australia as the iconic landscape which they inhabit. Remarkably, the tapestry of Australian Aboriginal history forms the oldest continuous culture in the entire world. So, when Europeans did arrive, they were under the impression that they had discovered the most magnificent place anyone had ever seen before, a land that was theirs to claim and theirs to control. Whilst it can't be argued that Australia is not incredible in its overall beauty, and that we are ever so lucky to be living here, the truth is that the most incredible discovery to this day is a story that is still being tragically ignored and unappreciated. While we have all heard many stories about the European discovery of Australia, it is our responsibility to make sure that the true story is told. This country is about so much more than damaging a voice box at the footy or Zooper-Doopers on a hot day. The story of Australia will always be incomplete without the ancient, unique, inspiring story of the first true Australians, the true discoverers of this incredible land, the story of the Aboriginal people. Thank you.
Thank you for that intriguing speech.
Next, we will hear from representing 7C. He's going to tell us the importance of getting our 5 a day.
Today I'm going to be talking about how the humble orange saved many lives. A terrible disease called scurvy killed more than 2 million people in the 1600s and 1700s. Scurvy, otherwise known as the plague of the sea, is caused by a nutritional deficiency of vitamin C. Sailors and pirates would have a limited supply of fresh fruits and vegetables, and they had to be eaten quickly so that they wouldn't perish. They could therefore be at sea for many months without any access to fresh produce. The sailors and pirates started to develop symptoms of depression, bleeding from the mouth, nose and gums, hallucinations, swelling of the limbs, and a high fever, to name a few. However, at the time, people didn't realise that this disease was caused by not getting enough vitamin C. James Lind, a Scottish doctor, is given credit for the discovery that scurvy could be prevented by eating fresh citrus fruits and vegetables, such as strawberries, oranges, lemons, cabbages, and capsicum and broccoli. This is why vitamin C is so important in our everyday diets. In May 1747, scurvy struck Dr. Lind's ship in the English Channel. With the captain's permission, he conducted an experiment. He realised that scurvy was caused by a missing nutrient in the sailors' diets. However, he was unsure exactly what this was. James Lind chose 12 men that were suffering from similar symptoms of scurvy. He then divided them into 6 pairs and treated them with various different remedies. And by the end of the week, those who were treated with citrus fruits and vegetables were well enough to help the other sailors who were still sick. From this experiment, he learned that the primary role of vitamin C is to produce collagen, a protein in the human body, which boosts the immune system and helps the healing process. Due to James Lind's discovery, the Royal Navy made sure that all sailors had lemon juice to drink when they were at sea for longer than 1 month. Although today scurvy is uncommon, it still occurs in underdeveloped countries. For example, in Ethiopia, scurvy is prevalent among refugees who depend on relief packs containing only non-perishable foods. It was therefore recommended that a vitamin C supplement be added. In developed countries, scurvy is very rare. This is because we are lucky enough to be able to go to any supermarket and buy as many fruits and vegetables as we need without putting in any thought. However, there is a population that is vulnerable. It affects people who cannot afford to buy these fruits and vegetables or do not have the access. Scurvy even reappeared in Australia. The doctors in Adelaide were alarmed to see people facing this preventable disease. It's truly heartbreaking that some people develop scurvy because they can't afford to buy fruits and vegetables. In modern society, we are very privileged to have the knowledge and access to maintain a balanced diet. Without this discovery, many people would still be suffering from the terrible symptoms of scurvy and would not know how to treat them. Isn't it incredible how something so simple saved so many lives?
Thanks for a fantastic speech. Who knew oranges were so powerful?
Second last speaker today of 7B, whose speech promises to be full of colour.
Close your eyes and picture a world devoid of colour. Or better yet, think of the opening, black and white scene from the film The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy, in her hometown Kansas, bland and depressing. Now contrast this with the brilliant and vibrant colours of the Land of Oz. The emerald green city, the sparkling ruby slippers, and the yellow brick road. And you'll start to get an idea of the importance of the discovery of the effects of colour in our lives. Colour plays an essential role in the world that we live. Colour can influence thinking, change actions, and cause reactions. Colour can hurt or soothe, raise or lower your blood pressure, or even increase and suppress your appetite. In 1666, Sir Isaac Newton discovered that when white light passes through a prism, it separates into visible colours. However, the psychology of colour dates back to the ancient Egyptians who studied the effect of colour on our mood. The Egyptians believed that red increases circulation to the mind, blue eases pain, orange increases energy levels, and yellow was thought to purify the body. A famous psychiatrist, Carl Jung, once said, "Colours are the mother tongue of the subconscious." Jung's studies led him to believe we have a universal bodily response to different colours, and he believed that expressing oneself through colours could help his patients recover from distress. Colour psychology is the study of how colours influence emotions and perceptions, and are relied upon by marketing and advertising companies. For example, warm colours such as red, orange, and yellow can bring out feelings of happiness and energy. However, these colours can also be attention-grabbing and signal danger. Think of the colours of traffic lights and stop signs. These colours are also associated with food. For example, the colours of McDonald's, KFC, Hungry Jack's, Red Rooster, and Coca-Cola all use either or a combination of red and yellow. The colour red also tends to attract more spontaneous purchases. You may have noticed that both David Jones and Myers use the colour when advertising their yearly sales. And Target, Kohl's, and Kmart use red in their logos. Cool colours such as green and blue are usually more calming and soothing and are associated with the colours of the ocean. These colours are often used by companies to display health, beauty, and security products. Cities in Japan and Scotland introduced blue street lighting, and it was found that there was a significant decrease in crimes and suicides in those cities. The color blue has also been shown to decrease rapid breathing and lower blood pressure and stress levels. Dark colors like black are associated with death and mourning. Black is also used as a symbol of evil. Think of Dracula in a foreboding black cape. Black is also seen as a powerful color, which may be a reason why it is a popular color for luxury cars. I hope you can now appreciate the importance of the discovery of the effects of color in our lives. Unlike Dorothy, we thankfully don't need to travel over a rainbow to the land of Oz to appreciate the remarkable effects of color. Thank you.
Thank you. You've certainly brightened up our day. Well done.
And our final speaker today will be representing 7A. He will discuss the importance of taking risks.
We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. These wise words are spoken by Elie Wiesel, the famous author, human rights leader, and Holocaust survivor. And these words are important to me because they help me discover the meaning of taking risks, not to be indifferent. To me, what it means not to be indifferent is not to take the easy route, not to hide in the crowd. By following, you can avoid controversy and avoid being unpopular among those who don't agree with you. But instead of avoiding, I discovered the importance of taking a risk to speak up, to share my opinion, and not to be afraid of others' judgment, and to think of things in terms of we, not me. You don't need to watch the news or read the papers to discover the complexity of today's problems. Like, there are many people trying to solve our problems by refusing to be indifferent. Like the people fighting for the Black Lives Matter movement or the people supporting the Me Too movement. Unfortunately, our problems won't solve themselves. That's why we must speak up and take risks, not to be indifferent. For the past 3 years that I lived in the United States, my parents would put a small rectangular sign in our front yard. It read, "We believe Black Lives Matter. No human is illegal. Love is love. Women's rights are human rights. Science is real. Water is life. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." At the time, I didn't understand what most of these things meant, or why my parents and some of my neighbors had put them in their front yard, where anyone who walked or drove past could see them. But as I've gotten older, I better understand what these things mean, and how the act of even putting a small sign in your front yard can be a risk, because you are risking what other neighbors think of you. But that's not important. By openly sharing your opinion about controversial topics and raising awareness, you are taking a risk not to be indifferent. My discovery has helped me understand the positive impact in taking risks. This is why I've chosen to recreate that sign and put it in my front yard in Caulfield, hoping that when people see it, instead of forgetting about our problems, they will embrace them and try to find a way to solve these problems in their own community, for an overall goal of making Melbourne a better place for everyone, no matter what gender, religion, or skin color. This is Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, and I want to be a part of it.
Thank you for finishing on such a positive note.
Thank you all for joining us to listen to these great Baron Snider speeches, and thank you once again to Rabbi Kennard for adjudicating.
Hi everybody. I want to just to say a big congratulations to everybody who just spoke, all our finalists. It was fantastic, really high quality speeches, such a different range, a broad range of ideas explored, and lovely, passionate ideas.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman, and it's no trouble at all to take time out of my day, because it's always a pleasure to be involved in events like this, and it's always a pleasure to hear such quality performances from our students, and particularly our young students at the beginning of their secondary school. It's not easy standing up in front of a crowd. It's not easy standing up in front of a Zoom screen. It actually creates a number of different challenges. The whole idea of making eye contact is different than just staring at a camera. It's very hard to read the audience when they're all hidden away. So it's really a great congratulations to each of our 10 finalists. I really, really enjoyed your speeches. And before I announce the winner, I just want to say certain things that we learned and we saw on a very high level from each of our speakers. So when you give a speech, it's very, very important to have a good start and an ear-grabbing start. And many of you did that, but particularly like your opening words were COVID-19, which is probably the phrase that is going to engage us more than anybody else. So you got our attention at the very, very beginning. I noticed a couple of you told personal stories and told them very well. We learned a lot about your mermaid, may I call it, obsession, and you told that story very well. I particularly liked your personal relevance of your theme, and you talked about the sign that was in your parents' house and you've now created yourself, and what that sign meant to you. And when you put yourself into the story and into the speech becomes that much more alive and that much more engaging. I was very impressed that you did something which is very hard, which is to take a complex scientific topic and explain it in a way that we can all understand. And to explain the science of black holes in the way that you did, I thought was very, very impressive. I really liked your rhetorical device when you went through famous scientists and then you said, why haven't we heard of Eunice Foot? And then you told us her story, and then you used that as a springboard to talk about women in science and women in general. And you gave a very important message, but the device to make us think, why haven't we heard about this person, was a very clever way of engaging us. It's a challenge, as I said, to talk on Zoom because you can't make eye contact, but I think you did a very, very good way of involving your body, involving your face. You smiled, you engaged with your eyes, you moved around a bit, not too much and not too little, and all that added to the message that you were giving. When you spoke about Australia and you made that dramatic switch in the middle of your speech, and you started leading us down a false alley about the discovery of Australia by the Europeans, and then when many of us were wondering, well, what about the Aboriginals? Suddenly you turned it around and hit us with the importance of understanding Aboriginal history and their 40, 50, 60,000 years of history in this land before the Europeans came. I thought you made a very dramatic way of getting your message across. You did a similar trick. You started by saying there was no God, and then you said, well, maybe there are benefits to having a God, and you switched completely from beginning to end. But I also like the way you used humor. I think you did that uniquely today. Your reference to I can eat macas delivered in a very entertaining way, I thought was a very good technique. You used drama. Your speech crossed over, and I think very effectively, into a dramatic presentation. The way you moved yourself, the way you varied your tone and your pitch and your volume of your voice, and you did all those things in order to add, not to take over from, but to add to the message that you were giving about the benefits of color and the different way that we use color. And finally, I think, yes, I've come to the end of the list, and I want to talk about the end of the speech. And the end of the speech is very important because, of course, it leaves the lasting effect on the audience. Many of you found a clever way to end your speech, but again, I particularly liked your very dramatic moment when you said, who would have thought something so simple can save so many lives? And I thought that was a really good way of wrapping up the speech. So that's some comments on each one of you. Well done. Unfortunately for me, my job is to pick a winner, which is always difficult. And there were many amongst the 10 today who could have been the winner. But a choice I had to make, and considering the message, the style, the exploration of the theme, and the way it was delivered, I chose to be our winner today. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you very much for this opportunity that I've really enjoyed. Back to you, Ms. Hoffman.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Rabbi Kennard, for your adjudication, and Mazel Tov on her becoming this year's Baron Snider winner. Well done, and Mazel Tov to all the finalists and to all the students, in fact, for all their hard work on this, remembering that there's Baron Snider nearly every single year of secondary school, so more chances in the future and something to look forward to every year. I want to thank the English teachers for the hard work they put in creating this competition, and I also want to thank everybody that came to watch today to support the students and the parents. I hope that this gave you a nice break in your day with something positive to talk about.